It was supposed to be a feel-good reunion between two old friends and music icons. Tim McGraw and Kelly Clarkson live on The Kelly Clarkson Show. The stage was perfectly set. Acoustic guitars rested in the corner. Soft amber lighting created a cozy vibe, and the audience buzzed with anticipation. Kelly introduced Tim with warmth and nostalgia, recounting their duet history and touring memories. When he walked out, the crowd roared with cheers, and for the first 10 minutes, everything was charming, even funny. They laughed about wardrobe malfunctions from old shows, exchanged playful jabs about country versus pop, and Tim even teased Kelly about being the boss now. But just as the show transitioned into deeper territory talking about the music, industry, personal struggles, and the politics behind fame, something shifted. Kelly asked a question that landed wrong, and Tim's smile didn't quite return afterward. "You ever feel like Nashville forgets what real country is supposed to be?" she asked. It was meant to be provocative, maybe even playful. But Tim's expression hardened. He looked away for a moment, then back at Kelly, and said, "You really want to go there?" The audience laughed nervously, unsure if this was part of the banter. Kelly kept her tone light. "I mean, I've heard you say before that the genre's changing too much. I thought you'd be all about keeping it real." Tim leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Keeping it real doesn't mean dragging other people's sound through the mud, Kelly," he said sharply. The audience gasped. Kelly blinked, visibly taken aback. "Whoa, I wasn't dragging anyone. You kind of were," he cut in. "You asked if Nashville remembers what real country is like. There's only one version of it." "That's a loaded question." Kelly tried to recover, saying she was just exploring the topic and meant no disrespect, but Tim wasn't letting it go. It's easy to sit behind a desk on a daytime show and throw questions like that around, but some of us are still out there doing it every night, writing songs that matter to us, not worrying about whether they check some authentic box. The tension on set was now undeniable. The audience, unsure whether to laugh, clap, or stay silent, grew increasingly uncomfortable. Kelly, still maintaining a polite smile, tried to steer things back to safer territory. "You've had such a long career, and I know your fans love your honesty. That's all I was trying to touch on." Tim shook his head. "Nah, it didn't feel like honesty. It felt like bait." A producer off camera could be seen motioning to rap or cut to break, but Kelly pushed forward. "Tim, come on, we've known each other too long for this to blow up over a question. You know me better than that." He stared at her for a moment, then stood up slowly. "I thought I did." He pulled off the mic, clipped to his shirt, handed it to a stagehand, and walked off without another word. The camera cut away too late. His exit was fully caught on tape, and the stunned silence in the room was deafening. Backstage, staff scrambled to manage the fallout. A production assistant ran after Tim, who had already disappeared into his car. Kelly remained seated on the stage for several seconds, her smile gone, trying to process what just happened. "Well, that was unexpected," she finally said, attempting to lighten the moment, but it didn't land. She apologized to the audience during the commercial break and insisted they'd talk it out later, but the damage was done. Before the show even ended, Twitter and TikTok were ablaze with clips of the confrontation. The hashtags #Tim McGraw walks off and #Kelly V's Tim trended within the hour. Fans were divided. Some defended Tim, praising him for standing up for evolving country artists, while others slammed him for overreacting to a harmless question. Tim's team initially offered no comment, fueling more speculation. Media outlets flooded him with interview requests. Within 24 hours, a 12-second clip of him saying it felt like bait had over 30 million views. Country music stars began weighing in subtly through Instagram stories and cryptic tweets. One artist wrote, "Country has room for everybody, but some folks still act like they own it." While that was never confirmed to be about Tim, fans interpreted it that way. Meanwhile, Kelly's next show aired without any mention of the walk-off. She opened with a cooking segment instead, seemingly trying to pivot away from the controversy. But nobody was buying it. Her social media was flooded with fans demanding answers, apologies, or at least a statement. Quiet wasn't working. 2 days after the walk-off, Tim finally broke his silence with an Instagram post. It was a black and white photo of him in the studio, captioned, "Passion isn't always polite, but it's real." Comments exploded. Celebrities weighed in. Some called it classy, others said it was too vague. Then came the podcast interviews. Tim went on a well-known country podcast and laid it out. I felt ambushed. It wasn't about the question. It was about the tone, the assumptions. I've been doing this for decades, and suddenly I'm being quizzed like I'm out of touch. The host asked if he regretted walking out. Tim paused. No, I wish I hadn't had to, but I don't regret walking out. That quote made every entertainment headline in America. Tim McGraw. I don't regret it. The lines were drawn. The fallout didn't just stop with online chatter, ignited a full-blown media frenzy. Every entertainment outlet from TMZ to People magazine was running back-to-back coverage, dissecting every frame of the now infamous walk-off. Paparazzi camped outside both Kelly and Tim's residences. Rumors swirled that Kelly's team had tried to edit the episode post-airing, but the damage was already viral and irreversible. In a surprising move, Kelly finally addressed the issue head-on during her show's monologue 3 days later. Standing in front of a live audience that was quieter than usual, she took a deep breath and said, "I've known Tim for a long time. I respect him. I still do. But sometimes friends hit rough patches, especially when the cameras are rolling and the stakes are high." Her tone was calm but direct. The studio held its breath. I didn't intend to offend him, but I won't apologize for asking questions that artists are already debating in private. Applause trickled in, but her expression didn't soften. Asterisk, she continued. I get it, emotions run high when we talk about legacy and change, but I also believe growth comes from discomfort. That one line was picked up by dozens of outlets. It seemed to subtly push back against Tim's podcast comments without escalating the feud directly. Still, the indirectness didn't sit well with everyone. Fans of Tim saw it as passive-aggressive. Kelly's defenders saw it as grace under pressure. Meanwhile, country music insiders whispered about tensions that had been building for years between old-guard artists and newer voices like Kelly, who crossed over from pop. Behind the scenes, whispers became louder. Sources close to Kelly's team claimed Tim had been irritable even before the taping, complaining about the lighting, the segment order, and even the backstage playlist. Tim's camp, in turn, leaked that producers had misled him about the format and topics. The narrative became less about a simple argument and more about two powerful personalities caught in a tug-of-war over artistic identity. Country music was changing, and this public spat became the flashpoint. Late-night comedians began mocking the drama. Jimmy Fallon joked, "When Tim McGraw storms off your show, you know your questions really hit a sour note." Meanwhile, Saturday Night Live prepped a parody skit about the incident, casting fake Kelly and fake Tim in a sketch where they argue about whether chicken fried steak still counts as country. Both stars reportedly declined invitations to participate in late-night interviews that week, but insiders hinted that Tim was especially done with the media circus. Privately, his team was planning a statement concert, appearance and unannounced, set at a major festival in Nashville to reclaim narrative control on his terms. Asterisk Kelly, on the other hand, leaned into her strengths, performance, and platform. The following week, she opened her show with a cover of Live Like You Were Dying, one of Tim's most iconic hits. Her rendition was soulful, subdued, almost mournful. The performance earned her a standing ovation, but also reopened the wound. Social media lit up. Was it a tribute or a passive dig? Was she trying to extend an olive branch or twist the knife? Even more puzzling, Tim didn't respond publicly to the cover. Not a tweet, not a comment, nothing. But an anonymous source close to him told Rolling Stone he saw it and he wasn't moved. The silence spoke volumes. Nashville insiders claimed that Tim had started turning down interviews and offers that even tangentially involved Kelly or her show. Meanwhile, his next single was quietly renamed from Home Again to Unfiltered, sparking rumors that it contained veiled lyrics about their argument. While fans scoured the lyrics for hidden jabs, a deeper story emerged, one about trust. In a leaked text message thread shared with a journalist under anonymity, a former tour manager recalled that things had always been fragile between the two stars. Tim liked control. Kelly liked chaos. It worked when they were singing. It doesn't work when they're talking. The idea that this was years in the making added even more intrigue. Had their chemistry always been a balancing act? Had tensions been building since their duet days, only to explode now? When Tim's wife Faith Hill was asked during a press junket whether she thought they'd reconcile, she offered a tight-lipped response. They're both grown-ups. They'll figure it out. Or they won't.